Hi, Billy. Thank you for coming back to Not Nosy, Just Curious podcast. And this is Hockey Advisor Part 2. And this is Billy Cirillo, who is a hockey advisor. Now, you did a number one series where you try to tell everybody what a hockey advisor does exactly. What do you want to add to that? I mean, what do you do and why do I need you? And what are your credentials for that?
Well, first of all, a hockey advisor is we advise young athletes, which are hockey. My field is hockey. Uh, the proper way to develop, to train,
But let me
to
just
reach their
interrupt.
goals. Yes.
What are your qualifications as a hockey advisor? What makes you so wise?
Well, I think I have like 50 years of experience. I've coached for 45 years. I've scouted for the Red Wings and OHL teams. I directed programs. I sold hockey equipment. I've done everything in the hockey industry that you could possibly do.
So would you say you just love hockey?
Well, yes, I've done everything I've done in my lifetime has been revolved around hockey.
So
Yes.
you do it from a good place. You do it to help the kids,
Yes. Yes.
and you think you're
And
very
yeah, for today's world, I've coached U18 Little Caesars for 25 years, so that's how I learned a lot about the kids and what their goals are. We did a lot of placement at that stage because that's the years they're going to go off to junior, and I found out that a lot of kids didn't know what to do. They figured if they didn't play in the USHL or the North American Hockey League, which are the two top uh, junior programs in the United States, there's hundreds of junior programs. But if they didn't,
what is a junior program? Does that only the hockey world knows what a junior program is?
well, yes, the junior pro hockey. This I'm going to go back just a step. Hockey is a business that it's the only sport that the kid has to play 2 years of junior to go to college after high school. Every other sport, football, baseball, all the other sports, they graduate from high school to go right to college. They get their scholarships out of high school. But hockey, for some reason, and like I said, I've been in it for 50 years. It's been as far as I can remember. The kids had to go play junior after high school for a year or two. And that entails they have to leave home, go away to play hockey someplace for a year or two. And then the college will look at these junior kids, and that's how they pick their kids. So the world is different. The hockey business is completely different than any other sport. So, in a lot of these kids, once they get out of high school, the parents say, "Well, we went to school. You need to get to college. Forget about hockey," and they give up their dream because the parents feel they need to go right to college because that's how they're going to get a better job and all that kind of thing.
So, Billy, tell me what's the difference between an advisor or a scout or an agent or what is the difference between all of that? I mean, if I was a hockey parent, would I know?
No, no. Unfortunately, they most parents think an agent and an advisor are the same thing.
Okay, so there's a difference.
Oh, major difference. Yeah, agents belong to they work for law firms or what we call them is a bird dogs, or they work for a law firm that signs athletes, professional athletes, and they hire these guys to go out in the world and introduce yourselves and meet these young good athletes. Obviously, the top end athletes who they feel are going to be drafted in the National Hockey League. So they sign them up through their agency. Sometimes there's no charge, sometimes there's a charge, but they keep these kids for 4 or 5 years, and if they don't pan out to be an NHL player, they're sort of phased out of the equation. Okay, usually they're pretty good. 10% of the kids they sign will go off to pro because they're usually high end draft picks, but the other 90%, after 3 years, they're sitting there
So
spinning the wheels.
it's like you paid for what you got. If you paid nothing, you might have got nothing,
Well,
right?
but-
I mean, if your kid didn't make it to the NHL,
Then
oh well,
but then now they got to start over.
right.
Obviously, our advising group, we specialize in colleges.
Mhm.
Okay, most of our kids want to go to colleges. Most of those, even the high end guys, either want to go to college or pro. Today's world, it's different because you can go to college and you go play minor, you can play OHL and go to college. 2 years ago, you couldn't do that. But that saying, I mean, we try to teach a kid. Today's world, most of these kids aren't going to college. They're 21. If you play football, you graduate from high school, you're 18. You're going to college. Most hockey players don't go to school. They're 20, 21. And in fact, it's proven they're 20 minimum is 20 years old to go to college today.
Really? So is junior considered amateur hockey? Can they
Yep.
get paid in a junior capacity or no?
The OHL, the Ontario Hockey League, and the Western Hockey League, the Canadian, those leagues, they pay a minimum. Today, like I said, a little bit. Colleges now pay players. There used to be you could.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So these poor hockey guys have to waste 2 years of unpaid whatever when maybe they could go to college. They can't and get paid. So
Yeah.
the two years they spend in junior, they can make minimal. Or no?
Well, they could make a little bit. Like the OHL pays like gas money. They'd give like $250 a week or a month, and that pays their gas or their
to
snack
play
money
junior.
to play junior. It's not being paid. It just gives them some spending money.
Oh, okay.
Because most of these kids are away from home, and they can use the money for their extra stuff. But
Does it cost more money to play junior?
they're actually the top end junior programs don't charge. The USHL, North American Hockey League, the USHL is completely free. They're tier 1. The tier 2 teams, the team is free, but you have to pay for billing.
Mhm.
What I mean by billing, when the kids the junior teams are not here in Detroit, so they have to go someplace else to play, and they usually bill them with the family, and they pay $300 to $500 a month.
So as a hockey parent, you want to see your kid play juniors.
Well, yes, if they can, if they can go to junior, they're a good chance to go to college. If they can play a high end AAA and say 16, 17, 18, and say Detroit has a great AAA program, but there's AAA all over the place now.
Mhm.
So if you can say you can play for one of the top programs like Little Caesars, you're pretty much guaranteed you're going to go to college someplace.
Really?
Yes.
And are you guaranteed to go to juniors?
Nobody. No. How do I say it? Nobody's guaranteed anything. It's up to what the kid puts into it.
That was my next
It's
question.
like I'm an advisor. I have a lot of contacts in all the leagues in the world. I can get open doors for your son, but your son still got to go there and make the team and compete. It's I'm gonna help him through his way, tell him what he needs to do. The part of advisor is how are you gonna make a junior team? How are you gonna go to college? What do you need to do? What are the junior teams looking for? What are the colleges looking for? Those things we teach our agency. So the kid, once he gets there, he's pretty much knows what he's got to do. And pretty much all these kids love the game and they want to play college hockey and pro hockey. And so they're putting the time in.
So you've played this and done this for a long time. Do you notice a difference in the player today versus the player 10 years ago?
Yes, most definitely.
What's the difference?
Well, because it's a very expensive sport.
Mhm.
So the parents are spending a lot of money, or some kids do it on their own. They work 2 jobs.
Okay.
Not many, but most of the parents are spending a lot of money for these kids to go to college. And face it, today's colleges, the good schools are 50 to 100 grand a year
Mhm.
to go to school. So if they can get a scholarship or a portion of that paid for, the monies they paid up until this time, but is pretty much beneficial to them.
So you say the difference is money.
Well, yeah, money, and the way the kids are raised today. Today the kids are, they're, how do I say it? It's without the kids are raised today that you got to know somebody, you got to have something. It's not like go out there, go to the corner, take your mitt, and go play baseball for 2 hours, and you're going to make a college team. Or, today's world, you got to get in front of some people. You got to play in the right places.
So it's that old cliche, it's not what you know, who you know.
Well, that helps a lot.
It does.
Yes, helps a lot.
It does.
If I was Chris Draper's son, I shouldn't say that because he has a kid that plays hockey. But if I was an NHL player's son, I'm going to have the door opens up a little bit better for me than it does for Johnny next door, whose dad played golf, never played hockey.
Oh, that's interesting. So
Okay.
there is, I guess that is across the board in any sport.
I think so, but I think hockey's because the parents are, they have to drive these kids. They're spending a lot of time with these kids, or taking off work, or whatever it takes to, they're hiring advisors like myself to hopefully help that. But they hire trainers today. They hire fitness clubs. They hire nutritionists. All this stuff years ago wasn't in the equation. Now today, if you don't do those things like that, you're not going to play.
Do you feel those things, those expenses actually give you an advantage?
The extra, without a doubt.
you
Training,
do. You do.
there's no doubt about it. Today's world, today's youth athlete trains, anywhere between 10 to 40 hours a week.
With
Years
a
ago.
trainer, I mean,
With
With
themselves, we have a trainer by themselves or whatever they do. They're working out for that sport probably the minimum of 30 hours. I'm saying, I say 10 to 40, but I'm saying, figure most teams practice 4 times a week for an hour and a half. Most teams have assigned workout facilities, so they work a couple days a week there. So that's just on the team. Now, the kids that want to really do well, do extra. I could tell you, Larkin, when I was coaching Little Caesars, he was playing in the NHL, but he would still go on in the weight room after every practice. He'd go in the shoot. We had a shooting room. He'd shoot for 2 hours every day. Our practice went till 7:00, and they practiced in the afternoon. He would still be there shooting pucks. And here's the guys in the NHL because he wants to be the best goal scorer. So the ones that, and I changed my attitude about talking to parents years ago. Parents would be so hard on their kids when they're young. I said, look, don't be hard on your kid when he's 8, 9, 10 years old. Let him have fun. But there is a point you have to be hard on them. With today's world, the money involved and the stuff the kids have to do to survive, it's when they're 15, 16, that's when the parents just say, okay, you got to go out there and work hard. And before, I would say, leave your kid alone and be fine. But if your kids don't have the motivation and the push, he's not going to play the next step.
He's not.
Yeah, no, not at all. But if I had a kid I had kids that played hockey, and I let them do their own thing. But if I had a 15-year-old today, with the way it's what I've learned so far, the money these kids can make, it's just unbelievable. The rookie contract today makes $1 million.
Yeah, but are you playing hockey for the money, or are you playing hockey because of the love of hockey? I mean,
Both.
Don't you think you should just, I don't know what I'm trying to say, that you should just love it so much that you would just get out there and do it?
Well, most kids love it, but
but do you end up not loving it anymore? I mean, you love it.
Well, I love it. When I coached, I loved it. And I deal with a lot of coaches that they shouldn't be coaching because they're in it for all. I feel some of the wrong reasons. They say they love it, but they want to win that trophy. They want to win. They want to be the coach that says, "Hey, I won state championship."
So, Billy, when you're at the rink and you're watching, are you watching? Are you like an agent? Are you looking just for the best player to advise, or are you looking for some kid who just has a lot of heart and maybe not the best player?
Well,
I mean, he needs direction also, right? And that's what you
if
provide.
the kid doesn't have
mostly.
the heart desire to compete,
Can you tell that?
yes, you can tell that in 2 or 3 shifts.
You can.
Yeah.
Why?
They all tell you they all want to play, they want to use, but you know after watching a kid for a game that kid really wants to play. If he competes hard, his attitude's right, body language is a key. A lot of little things that we do as advisors and coaches and scouts is we have a list, and if the kid meets all those lists, then he can play. And the number one thing is to compete. The compete level. If they're out there, he doesn't get a pass, he's floating around or not skating hard. Obviously, it's going to be hard for that kid to make it.
But are you not interested in that kid?
No, my job as an advisor is to teach that kid that you got to skate hard every shift. You got to work hard. You got to push yourself.
Yeah, but those are words. Those are just words. How do you get them to actually do those things?
Well, if you want to play this sport, you got to put the time in. Today's world, these kids are all professional, all high-end athletes. Yeah, they're all at the top level. These kids train. Dude, if you don't train, at the AAA level, you can see these kids. They start, I'll explain the difference between high school and AAA. But AAA, all those kids want to play junior and go to college. So they all working hard. But some kids work this hard. Some kids work that hard. And all different levels. The kids that work the hardest are the ones that's going to keep going, are going to play the higher level. I tell the kids, and none of these kids are Division I hockey players at 15, even though some of these colleges are coming to it.
Now, what do you mean Division I? What's that mean?
Well, Division I colleges, top colleges.
Okay.
There's about 70 Division I universities in the world.
Now, is that the be all end all to be Division I? I mean, is that?
Well, most kids want to play Division I hockey because bigger schools, Michigan Tech, Boston.
Oh, okay.
And then, but what most of these kids don't understand, there's 700 other universities in the world that have hockey programs that offer today's world. Even the club teams offer assistance. So your kid can go to say, I'm just saying Adrian, because it's a prominent good hockey school here in Michigan. It's $46,000 or I'm sorry, $36,000 to go to Adrian a year. So that's 150, 160 grand a year. I'm going off the top of my head for 4 years of school to go there. And now if the kid gets assistance of 80% of that or 50% of that, now he's only paying,
So if you go to school on a hockey scholarship, do you have to play your entire career at school hockey?
Well,
I mean, if it's a 4-year program, most kids are getting college done in 5. But
actually, today's world's changed. Every kid has a 5-year. You can play sports for 5 years.
Okay, so if you go to college under the premises you're going to play hockey, you have to play hockey all 5 years.
To get your scholarship.
But do you have to keep making the team?
Yes,
you do. So okay,
usually once you sign a scholarship, you're there for the 4 years. But today's world now you can transfer without losing eligibility. So a lot of these kids, if they're not playing on that team and they got a scholarship, they want to go to another team where they can play usually. So they'll just go on the portal list and play for another team, and they won't lose eligibility. A couple years ago, when a kid transferred, he had to sit out a whole year before he can play again. So now you go to college for 4 years. Now you can only play for 3.
So that's a good thing, right?
Well, years ago, but that's no longer the case. Today, you can transfer every year. You can go to 5 different schools in 5 years.
What about academics?
Well, you've taken whatever that school offers. Most of those kids, a lot of those kids are going to college hockey to play hockey.
They are.
Because now the world, 50% of the kids that go to college usually sign a pro contract too. It's 10 years ago, it was maybe 6%.
So, I mean, when you go to college, can you like become a college program for coaching? I mean, what qualifications do you need to be a coach?
Well, most coaches are ex-players that been in the game for a while. That were taught by that. I was taught by hundreds of coaches over the years. I still talk to kids and coaches.
I mean, but did you have one coach that made a difference in your life? I know you're that coach to a lot of kids. I mean, do you have that one coach?
I had a guy
that you listened to.
I had a guy back when we were 15 years old, and Frank Warner, who was my best friend, we both played for this guy's name was Bud Newberry. He's passed away now. He actually married another good friend of mine's sister, John Porter, and
he was your coach.
He was my coach.
So
he convinced me that I should be in the coaching because I was always the captain of the team and I was always outspoken guy and did that. And unfortunately, my hockey career didn't last long because I only played 3 years pro, which is minor pro. I signed with Detroit back when I played. My biggest stint was with the Junior Wings back in the day. Then I signed with Detroit Red Wings and they put me in a minor system. Played a couple years. I got injured. And I was very fortunate because I knew Ted Lindsay at the time. He was a GM. He said, "Hey, you can't play. Why don't you coach the junior team?" I never coached before in my life. I played hockey. I was 23 years old. And I said, "Yeah, why not? I can't play no more, so I'll coach." And I've been coaching since I was 23.
So you're of the old adage, if you can't do, teach?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Yeah, but I love the game so much that I wanted to be involved with it anyway. So coaching was the next step.
So because you don't coach anymore and you still want to be involved in the game, this is a good avenue for you?
Yes.
Advising?
Yeah.
Do you love advising so much that you would tell people to go become an advisor? Would you
first of all, if you can play hockey, play. And I always tell the kids, don't quit. A lot of kids quit because they didn't make the junior team, didn't make a college team, so they want to quit. And I said, once you quit, you're done.
Well, have you had your feelings hurt like that, where you didn't make the team, where you felt you worked very hard?
I had an excuse because I was injured. I couldn't play.
Well, did that hurt when you couldn't play the game you loved so much?
I was totally crushed. So I wanted to be a part of it somehow, and I was very fortunate to get a coaching job, and I've been coaching ever since. High school, junior kids. I've coached 8 years old to junior guys to 20-year-olds. So so I enjoyed what I do, but like these kids today, if adversity is tough on these kids today because they're given a lot of stuff. So I mean, realistically, Everybody puts expectation on your children. They want every parent wants their kid to do good at something.
So you're an advisor. Who do you advise? The child? I mean, do you want to deal directly with the kid that you're contracted to, or do you want to deal with the coach or the parents, or how does this advising?
You have to advise the parents today along with the kids. The parents don't know what's going on, and they think because they're spending the money and doing this that they're doing the best thing for their kid. Well, they get to a certain stage of their life, they have to depend for themselves. Once they get to a team away from home, they're that coach's family, part of it.
Right.
So the kids got to abide by what that coach wants. It might not be what the kid wants to do. Like parents want your kids to always say, go score a goal, you're going to be a hockey player. That's the farthest from the reality of the game because it's a team sport. Can you imagine having 25 19-year-old kids away from home living?
Well, let me ask you. So, it's how often when you're on the ice, how many, I don't know the game, but how often do you get the puck? How often do you get a chance to score?
Well,
don't you have like positions and one guy's a scoring guy and then you have defense?
Forwards, defense, goaltenders. The best hockey player in the world today is Connor McDavid. And there was a stat out just the other day. He had 3 points. He had the puck a total of 1.5 minutes in the game. And he's the best hockey player in the world. So to try to tell a young athlete that the best player in the world had the puck for 1.5 minutes in a whole game, 60, 20 minutes periods, 3 periods, 60.
That's a fact.
That's a fact. So you're only going to have the puck. If you're a great player at youth hockey, you're going to have the puck for maybe 4 minutes.
But is that the goal, Billy, to have the puck? Can you play an entire game and be a champion without the puck?
Well, I'm just telling you, if you only have the puck for 3 minutes, so what are you doing the other 57 minutes? There's 60 minutes in the game, so you only have the puck, and you're not going to have the puck. And I urge every parent, every time your kid gets on the ice, don't clock his shift. When the puck touches his stick and goes off of his stick, clock it. And they'll come back and say, man, he didn't have it. He was less than a minute.
So I hear a lot of people talk about these power plays. Now, is a power play make or break a player? Does that make their career if they played a lot of power plays? I don't know what that is either, but is that important in the game?
Just so you know, there's the power play is where you're going to score goals because you have a man advantage. You should score goals on a power play. And killing penalties, they should score against you unless your team does a good job. So if every kid wants to score goals, so they all want to be on the power play. But face it, there's only 1 power play per team. Some teams have 2. Okay, but there's probably only 4 penalties to 6 penalties a game, and there's only 1 power play. So but there's 4 lines. So the other 4 lines, the other 3 lines don't get the power play time. So they're not going to get as many points as the team that has the line that has the power play.
Okay.
So everybody wants to be on the power play because they want to get points because they think it's going to further their career. But the kids don't understand is when I scouted for the Red Wings, I didn't scout the power play guys. I scouted the 3rd, 4th line guys. Second, 3rd, 4th line guys. The guy that 80% of your players that come from are the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th line guys that have to play without the puck and play the game right.
Okay.
So
when you solicit, that's probably the wrong word, but when you approach a parent to tell them about your service, what do you tell them? Do you approach the parent after watching the child on the ice, or how does that work?
Well, the first thing I ask parents, if your kid really loves the game and willing to put the time in, then we can help them. And what I mean by that is I can tell him the stuff that he needs to work on to play junior hockey or to play first line or try to get on the power play or do these, or be a penalty killer or be a defenseman or whatever it takes. But if you want to play junior hockey, this is what you got to work on. You have to work on without the puck. You got to work on your commitment. What I mean by commitment is everything from tying your skates right to eating right. Okay. So there's a lot of things you got to put together to be a hockey player. Sleep at night, all diets.
So is that what you tell the parent when you say, are you thinking about having an advisor? And here's
I can tell them I put a lot of
You're-
kids through college and junior when I was coaching U18 there. And even, so I know what it takes. I know what the scouts are looking for. They're looking for kids that work hard. They're looking for kids without the puck. So if you work hard in your practices without the puck, it's going to pay off in the games. So, and you don't have to be a goal scorer. You don't have to be a 50 goal scorer to be
So, Billy, why an advisor? Why do I need you? You can open doors for me and blah blah blah, but why can't I do that myself?
You sort of can. You can make phone calls and register.
But
But-
does a coach listen to you more readily than they would listen to a parent?
Well, the coaches in Detroit area. I mean, obviously, I have kids at all the teams in Detroit area. The coaches know that I've coached in that league, so they know that I've scouted kids and I know kids. So when I call them and say I got a hockey player for you, they usually take them because my scouting ability or my knowledge of the game. So I mean, the best thing is that people trust me because I've been in this business a long time.
Do you
You know.
have to tell people that?
Well, you don't want to, I mean, I have, but if they don't, people today, you can go on the internet and figure out.
But let me
Who's
ask
that
you,
about?
so the market is sort of saturated a little bit, do you think? I mean, everybody thinks they can be an advisor. So it's you come up to me or some young kid comes up to me, why would I hire you? Or why?
Well, I would say
what am I looking for when I want to hire an advisor?
Well, everybody's different. You might be a young parent that thinks you need a young guy to promote your kid. I'm an old timer. I've been in it for a lot of years. I mean, I'm going to give your kid experience what I was taught over the years. Yes, some of my stuff is old school, but it's all boils down to the same thing. If you want to play professional hockey, you have to do these 5 projects or 5 things or 10 things, whatever it may be. You have to do those things. And that's what I teach. I go there, I watch their kids play. I probably try to, get to 5 or 6 or 10 of their games through the course of the year. And as I'm watching, I tell them after the game, hey, you need to work on this, keep working on that, keep getting stronger, keep working on your shot, all these things.
So is your fee, do you charge a fee? Are you expensive? Is that something very expensive for parents? I mean,
Well, our company charges, it's
are you competitive or
more
are
than,
you,
I think just by talking to people, a lot of these guys are charging yearly now and some big numbers.
uh-huh.
I mean, I started working at this company 7 years ago and it was 3,500. Our company now is up to 4,500 over 7 years, but I'm still at 35.
Okay.
And I told my boss, and my boss works with me perfectly. I said, listen, I've been in this business. I mean, so I'll take a little less, you take a little less, but I want to keep it affordable for these families. So they
Do you
pay.
think they get their money's worth?
Oh, I think so.
You do.
I think, obviously you can't hold their hand 24/7. And some of the parents think because they hired me that I'm going to get them a college deal or.
Yeah,
or-
but do you make it clear to the parents, like you said earlier, I can get you there. I can open that door, but you have to go through it.
Yeah. And
You have to show up.
you got to do those things. And you got to, I mean, my job, which I feel I'm still coaching. This is my fill of coaching. Is
Mhm.
I take every kid individually and work with them individually and tell them what they need to work for. So my girlfriend always wanted me to want me to go back into coaching. I said, well, I've been coaching the whole time. I just never stopped. I just got individual. I have one player per team instead of.
So how do you navigate your clientele? Do you call them once a month? Do you check in? Do they check in with you? I mean, how do you keep in touch with everybody?
I try to reach out a couple times a month. Sometimes I talk to kids once a week. I got kids I talk to once a week.
And do you
But
go?
I want my kids to call me.
You do. And,
So,
and when
First
they
thing I
call
tell
you, you go to their games and stuff. I mean,
the
do
first thing I tell them when they sign up, I said, put my number in your phone. You're in my phone. Here, I call them, tell them, see, you're in my phone. When you call me, I know who it is. And when I call you, you should know who I am. So I said, you should call me more than I can call you because if you want this hard enough, bad enough, you got to be involved.
they? Okay.
And talking to your advisor every day, you see me at your game, I've watched you. So you should be calling me the next day and say, hey, what did you think? And I can tell you what I thought.
Do you try to get to everybody's games?
I try to make as many as I can.
You do?
Yep.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right. What else? Finish this up. In closing, why do I need you? Simply put,
Why do you need me?
why does an advisor need
Because I
you?
pay the bills.
Why
No.
does an advisor? I mean, what do I need in a just give me the real guts of it, you know?
Advisor's going to teach your son what it takes.
But I'm a parent now, and I think my child knows everything. And then here you are, and you want to tell me you're going to advise me.
Well, because first of all, 90% of the coaches out there in the different leagues, I know personally. I shouldn't say 90%, but a lot of those coaches I know personally. And I know what they're looking for, and I know how they coach, and I know what their goals are. So if you happen to be drafted by that team and you're one of my clients, I'm going to say, this guy wants this. If you're going to play there, you better learn how to play this way because you're not going to play, or whatever it takes. Or for you to be on that team, you got to get stronger, you got to get faster, or whatever it is. You got to be there. And I know that most of those teams personally, I can tell these kids that that's what the coach is looking for. And every coach is different. You know, some coaches want tough kids. Some kids want skilled kids.
So do you think coaches put a team together to win?
Yeah, they all put a team together to win. They put a team together who can get along. Most parents don't understand that. They say, my kid went to camp. He was the best guy there. But he might have said something to a kid that the kid told the coach, that kid's an asshole. And you got to face it. That coach is responsible for 25 guys on the road on that trip. So why would they take a kid in that's sort of a problem kid who's going to cause them problems when they can take a kid not as talented, but he's a great team player, a great guy to be part of the team.
So, Billy, do you think there's life lessons in hockey? I mean, do you think how you play a team sport and what you do as part of a team are prerequisites to the adult you might become?
I think hockey players are the most sought after workers in the world because hockey players learn to play with the weakest guy and the best guy. They learn how to play with everybody. And people in work, sometimes if they can't deal with the weaker, talented employee, they fire them.
Yeah, but
hockey guy.
Don't you think all teams do that? They learn to play with the weaker and the stronger. So what are you saying exactly?
If you hear the NHL guys today, they're talking about putting the team together by the playoffs. Okay, they got guys coming and going all year long. They're feeling guys out. Who's going to be a match with that team? And hopefully by the end of the year, before the playoffs, they got everybody in place that is going to buy into that group, and they'll be successful. You have one guy. It's like the old story. You have one bad apple and a bucket of apples. Yeah. The whole bucket.
Okay.
So, right. and that's why these coaches and parents don't see that part. But you know, I'm here to tell the kids that, you know, just because you're a great hockey player, that coach might not like it. The good thing about hockey is there's 100 different teams and there's 100 different coaches. I'm just shooting that number, but there's thousands and thousands. But you know, there's 50 junior leagues you can go play at and still go to college. Which, if your goal is to go to college, you don't have to go to that league or this league or that league. There's 100 leagues you can go to and still end up in college. So
there's good life lessons.
Yeah, life lessons. And it's like people are taught in the high-end world, they're all taught to play in the USHL or the top team. It's like everybody wants to play in the National Hockey League. Well, 3% of the kids are going to play in the National Hockey League that are playing today. You know, and if you're 17, 3% of those guys will make it to the National Hockey League. That means, so what do other kids do? You know, if they continue, they're going to get a college degree out of it, which are probably 50% of those kids will go to college. But, you know, if they go in probably minor pro, there might be 20%. But the number keeps getting smaller and smaller as they grow. And
all right, so let's finish this. Come on.
The best thing about an advisor is, like I said, our company's $3,500. If your kid signs up with us,
what's the name of the company and everything? Give them the details.
JDM Sports. We're based out of Chicago. I'm the Michigan representative. We have representation all over the United States and Canada. I'm basically work for Dave Mishak, who owns the companies out of Chicago. I've been with him for 7 years, and you know, I love what I do.
And you're a great advisor.
I think I'm one of the best.
All right. So for anybody who's listening to this and you're into hockey and you need an advisor, Billy Cirillo at Yahoo?
No.
Or just Facebook them.
Oh, my email, BillCirillo@yahoo.com.
Yeah. And get yourself an advisor.
Yep.
Right?
Yes.
All right. And if you got anything to tell us on Not Nosy Just Curious, email us at notnosygustcurious.com. No, at gmail.com.
I can tell you something real quick in closing.
Yes.
Our company is based around college commits. We had 138 college commits this year.
That's
Which
good.
I had- which
That's
I
a
had-
good number.
That's a great number.
Okay.
I had 33 personally.
Okay.
So 33 of my clients ended up in college this year. This year, come next year, I got about 36 kids in that age bracket, and I hopefully have all 36 in college next year. So my goal is every year I try to add 30 players, and I hopefully 30 players will go off to college. So I got an age span from 08s to 04s.
So Billy, if I was interested, this one more thought. If I was interested in hiring you,
Yeah.
and I talked to somebody else,
Mhm.
would that referral be favorable?
I would think so.
Okay.
I would think so. If they dealt with one of my clients, yes.
Oh, all right.
You know, a lot of people,
Is that what it's come to for you now?
Well, you
is
gotta
the
remember-
trickle down.
got to remember I coached for 50 years. So you know how many kids I've cut in 50 years?
A lot.
A lot.
You
So
broke a lot.
I
of
have a
hearts.
tribe. I know I had a tribe. This way, I'll tell you a funny story. I had a lady I coached about 20 years ago, and she came to my trial, and we had like 200 kids trying out. She said, "Oh, you must be a good coach. You have all these kids." I said, "Yes, but see those 200 kids? I can only take 10 of them. So that means I got 190 kids that are pissed off at Billy Cirillo." She said, "Wow, I didn't think of that." I said, "And each one of those kids have 2 parents. So now you got 190. You got almost 600 people in one tryout that thinks Bill Cirillo's an asshole. Now you multiply that by 30 years. How many people are pissed off at Bill Cirillo? It's not because I'm a bad coach, but you can only take so many kids.
No.
So you look at it that way. There's not a lot of people. If they tried out for my team, and they didn't make it, then obviously I'm a bad guy.
Yeah. Okay.
So
But
the ones that
as
were
far
with me,
as
the ones that were with us,
they're happy.
They should be happy.
And your business now is becoming word of mouth, trickle down kind of thing.
80% of my business now is
Word of mouth.
I don't go after too many people. So most of my kids, if somebody's like representing somebody and they say call Billy, and,
Okay.
All
right. Well, that's Bill Cirillo at JDM Sports. Give him a call if you need an advisor. We're going to say goodbye, right?
Yep. Do you want to put my number in there?
Oh, yeah. Put your number in there, Billy.
586-201-2502.
Call that number, please.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Bye.